Palutong bahay man o sumptuous meal for special occasions, sagot na kayo ng tropang Kalanpag. Dahil atid sa inyo ng Daily Tribune ang fun and exciting cooking show na Kalanpag, manood at matuto kung paano lutuin ang mga favorite nyong recipes. Sabayan pa ng fun and inspiring na kwentuhan sa kusina. I-upgrade na rin natin ang mga nakasanayang traditional dish ng pamilya. Plus, healthy tipid tips na ibabahagi ng tropang Kalanpag. Matuto, mabusog at ma-good vibes dito lang sa Kalanpag tuwing Lunes, 10:30 a.m. sa Daily Tribune Facebook page at Tribune Now on YouTube.
For today's headlines, COVID increases risk of blood clots for up to 6 months, according to a study. The National Water Resources Board is alarmed over low Angat supply. Philippines possible major wind power producer, according to Bongbong. Pacquiao downplays poor rating in Pulse Asia survey. Fuel subsidy exempt from election ban. Duterte launches new 1,000 peso plastic banknote. PAGCOR funds sports facilities in southern Leyte. New sanctions versus Russia amid atrocities. Good morning, I am Venice Bautista and this is Tribune News on Q. Today is April 7, 2022, and these are the latest news of this Thursday morning. People who have had COVID-19 have an increased risk of developing serious blood clots for up to 6 months after getting infected, even in mild cases, a study said Thursday. Previous research has indicated that COVID raises the risk of blood clots, but the new study in the BMJ Medical Journal shows how long the threat can linger. To find out, researchers compared data from the millions of people in Sweden's national registries who contracted COVID from February 2020 to May 2021 with the control groups of over 4 million who did not test positive. They found that those with COVID had a higher risk of pulmonary embolism, a blood clot that blocks arteries and lungs, up to 6 months after infection. There were also an increased danger of deep vein thrombosis, a blood clot normally in legs, up to 3 months after contracting COVID. The chance of clotting was higher during the first wave of the pandemic than later stages, which the researchers said was due to vaccine coverage and better treatments as time went on. The researchers said their findings had major policy implications, calling for more treatment to prevent blood clots from developing, particularly in high-risk cases. The National Water Resources Board, or NWRB, fears that Angat Dam, the main water source of Metro Manila, will reach its minimum operating level of 180 meters within the second quarter of the year. In an episode of Gising Na, an online show of the Daily Tribune, NWRB Executive Director Civilio David Jr. said his agency is preparing to implement precautionary measures to avert a looming water crisis. While it can still cover the water requirement of Metro Manila, the Metropolitan cannot afford yet another water crisis amid the approaching summer months while the country battles a global pandemic. Thus, NWRB will have to resort to cloud seeding operations to mitigate a looming water crisis amid the continuous decline of water elevation in Angat Dam. Based on the monitoring of the Metropolitan Waterworks and Sewerage System, or MWSS, the water elevation level of Angat Dam reached 190.92 meters on Wednesday, slightly higher than 190.59 meters recorded on Tuesday, and its spilling level is 217 meters. To fulfill his campaign promise to lower the electricity cost in the country, presidential frontrunner Bongbong Marcos vows to push for regulatory and policy reforms to transform the Philippines into a major offshore wind power producer globally if he wins the elections. In a statement on Wednesday, the former senator said He believes that wind power, along with other renewable energy sources, can help the country lower its electricity rate in the long term. Through this, the country can be a competitive destination for foreign investments in a post-pandemic environment. Bongbong also expressed hopes that the offshore wind power roadmap being developed by the Department of Energy and the World Bank Group will be completed this month. He is confident that the offshore wind power roadmap will ensure that adequate rules and regulations are in place to guide the government in working with all industry stakeholders. Tribune News on Q will be back after these reminders.
Ako po ay kabahagi ng isang alyansa ng mga kandidato ngayong national elections na nananawagan po ng pagkakaisa. Ako po si Sara Duterte. Handa po akong magserbisyo sa ating bayan. Hinihingi ko po ang tulong at suporta ninyo para sa pagka-vice presidente ng ating bansa.
Fun and inspiring na kwentuhan? Sagot na yan ang programang Spotlight ng Daily Tribune. Makipagkwentuhan at kilalanin ng iba't ibang personalidad na kilala sa kani-kanilang larangan. Manood at makinig sa mga inspiring stories na kanilang ibabahagi kasama si Nina Ventura at Jojo Silvestre. Be ready ng mamangha at matuwa every Thursday alas 2 ng hapon dito lang sa Daily Tribune Facebook page at Tribune Now on YouTube. Non-stop showbiz update ba ang hanap nyo? Sagot na yan ang aming Tribune Extra. Balitang entertainment at lifestyle, mapa-local man o international, meron kami niyan. Manood at makichika na kasama si Kim Sancha, Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 5 ng hapon sa Tribune News on Q at separate premiere nito ng alas 7:30 ng gabi. Mapapanood sa Daily Tribune Facebook page at Tribune Now on YouTube.
We're back on Tribune News on Q. From the party standard bearer, Senator Manny Pacquiao belittled the result of the latest Poll Asia survey, saying his attention is currently focused on how his message can reach Filipinos belonging to the D and E classes of the society. He recalled that weeks before the 2010 vice presidential polls, then candidate Jejomar Binay was trailing by a huge margin from survey leader then Senator Mar Rojas. Pacquiao said Binay succeeded in reaching out to the poor sectors of society, and this paid well with a win over Rojas. He acknowledged the significance of doubling efforts in his attempt to deliver his message of hope and better life to ordinary Filipinos, especially the poor. Pacquiao also pointed out that compared to the 3,000 respondent surveys, there are 67 million voters with varied views about politics, thus predicting the outcome of the elections with accuracy is not possible. In the remaining 30 days of campaign, the Pacquiao team will barnstorm the key areas in Mindanao and the Visayas, with rural folks and the D and E classes as main targets. The Commission on Elections yesterday approved the exemption from the election ban sought by the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, for the fuel subsidy program. In a press briefing, COMELEC Commissioner George Garcia said the exemption would be subject to the strict implementation of guidelines, including the submission of the list of beneficiaries and the project implementation procedures. The LTFRB had earlier requested an exemption from the COMELEC's prohibition on cash disbursement as it halted on March 25 the delivery of fuel subsidies to public utility vehicles drivers and the operators pending the resolution. Even before the poll body issued the exemption, the LTFRB continued with card production and other preparations needed for all remaining payables. LTFRB Executive Director Maria Cristina Cacion said they have yet to receive a copy of the decision from the poll body. In the face of rising fuel prices, the government allocated 2.5 billion pesos for fuel subsidy to assist 377,000 PUV drivers and operators. Meanwhile, President Rodrigo Duterte launched on Wednesday the new 1,000 peso polymer banknote featuring the Philippine Eagle. Duterte inspected the banknotes in a brief ceremony in Malacanang with Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Governor Benjamin Jocno and Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez III that was aired over RTVM. The BSP had said that the 1,000 peso polymer bills were more secure against counterfeiting, as well as more cost-effective and environment-friendly than the paper banknotes currently within the circulation. According to the central bank, the new bills had complex security features and were less susceptible to viral and bacterial transmission. These were also made with a smaller carbon footprint since its production required less resources than those used for paper bills. The polymer banknotes could also be recycled and could be sanitized with minimal risk of damage, the BSP said. Tribune News on Q will be back. Stay with us.
This public service advisory is brought to you by Daily Tribune and 100.3 RJFM.
Oh, vaccination, isolation. Gotta keep up with my nutrition. Gotta maintain my body condition. Then I can take my vaccination. What do I choose? What do I take? As long as it is not a fake. AstraZeneca, Moderna, BioNTech, even Sinovac, okay na. Babakuna ka ba? 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 Vaccination for the nation, no more isolation. With vaccination, babakuna ka ba? 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 Paturok, paturok, paturok.
This public service advisory is brought to you by Daily Tribune and 100.3 RJFM. Alamin ang latest entertainment at sa mga paborito niyong celebrities kasama si Pocholo Concepcion sa programang WhatsApp. Makibanding at kwentuhan kasama ang mga kilalang personalidad sa entertainment industry. Sama-sama natin silang kilalanin at silipin ang makulay nilang mundo every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Kaya sit back and relax lang kayo mga katribu. Hanapin at ilike ang Daily Tribune Facebook page at Tribune Now on YouTube. Dahil sagot na namin ang masayang kwentuhan dito lang sa WhatsApp.
You are still watching Tribune News on Q. The city of Maasin in southern Leyte will soon realize its longtime dream of having modern sports facilities that will fortify its athletic development programs after the Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation or PAGCOR donated 53.2 million pesos for the construction of said projects on March 18, 2022. The groundbreaking ceremony for the building of the sports facilities, composed of an oval track, tennis court, and a basketball court, was held at Barangay Tamis. According to Maasin City's Mayor National Mercado, the sports facilities, which will soon be constructed in their city, will be beneficial in their promotion of grassroots sports and in the training of their local athletes who will take part in various prestigious national and international athletic competitions. The local chief executive added that the facilities would help spur economic growth in Maasin, as they will also be utilizing the welcome tourists and the visitors who are involved in sports activities. Meanwhile, PAGCOR Chairman Andrea Domingo said the state-run gaming firm has been fully supporting programs that aid in the training and development of local athletes in the hope of producing more potential athletic talents that could put the country in the global sports map. For our world news, the United States was expected to announce tough new sanctions on Russia Wednesday, including a ban on new investments, a day after Ukraine's president showed the UN Security Council harrowing images of violence and accused Moscow of widespread atrocities. The sanctions come after an outcry over the discovery of dozens of bodies in civilian clothing in areas from which Russian troops have withdrawn around Ukraine's capital, including the town of Bucha. Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky likened Russia's actions to Nazi atrocities in an impassioned speech by video link to the 15-member UN Security Council on Tuesday. He demanded stronger action from Western powers and called for Russia's exclusion from the Council, where it holds veto power. Later in his nightly address, a frustrated Zelensky said Russia was blocking the UN from carrying out the functions for which it was created. In an interview with the BBC, the U.S. ambassador to the UN admitted that no one can question Zelensky's frustration with the Council and how the Council operates. But she insisted that while the Council was holding Russia to account and that Moscow was isolated within it. And that wraps up the stories this morning. But before we go, we would like to thank the following: SM Store, Araneta City, Department of Tourism, MG Motors, Hina Motors Security Bank, Empire Eastland Holdings Incorporated, and Overseas Community Affairs Council member Alan Lin of Republic of China for their continued support. Again, this is Venice Bautista on Tribune News on Q. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay at home. Good morning.
Catch the latest news on our website, tribune.net.ph. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Tribune Now. Download the Daily Tribune app on Apple Store for iOS and Google Play for Android to get the latest and most comprehensive news online. Daily Tribune invites you to join its Viber community, Katribu, to get updates on the hottest news on politics, business, sports, lifestyle, and entertainment. Emoticons of the Tribune mascot Tarsito are available on our community Viber.